Hey everybody, today's video I want to go over map mods, how they affect how much damage your character takes in any given map, and the affixes that you might be overlooking that are killing your character. To start, I'm going to look through all the affixes, explain a few of them, explain how strong they are, and then eventually we're going to get to a point where I lay out, okay, normal in a base map, this monster does 100 damage to your character. How much damage is that going to do in this insanely 6 mod, like worst case scenario map? So you can kind of get a feel for how important map modifiers are when you're talking about defenses in Path of Exile. The reason I want to make this video is because you're going to see a lot of people complaining about getting one shot, especially now with bosses being buffed up a little bit in endgame mapping. But what they don't realize is that the map modifiers are almost definitely the reason for those one shots. So to start off, let's look at the prefixes. There are 5 prefixes that unconditionally increase damage taken. We're going to take a look at those right now, starting with the 2 worst ones. So increased monster damage is just a more damage multiplier on monsters in your maps. This is one of the strongest or worst case scenarios for you. Number 2 is probably going to be damage as extra chaos. For certain builds, this is wrong, right? You can be immune to chaos damage. You can have like giga max chaos res. But for most players just getting into the endgame, if you see this mod and your chaos res is around 0, this is going to be an insane amount of increased damage to you in those maps. The other 3 are just fire, cold, and lightning. So it is, again, 1.3 multiplier, but in this case, elemental damage instead of just straight up more damage. There are a few other conditional ones that I'm not sure how they affect certain archetypes. Increased accuracy rating makes evasion worse. I'm just not sure how much worse. So if anybody knows, they can let me know in the comments. But in this video, I kind of want to just look at the like one-shot potential of any given map. So accuracy rating just affects how often you're getting hit, not necessarily the scale of that damage. So that covers the prefixes. When we look at suffixes, they have a lot more variability. When we're talking only about one-shot potential, there are 3 of them that are going to increase it off the charts. But there are a lot of other really potentially scary mods, so let's just start from the top. Move speed, attack speed, cast speed's crazy in this game. It makes it way easier for your character to get surrounded, and then once you're surrounded, way easier for you to get like frozen or stunned just because of how fast enemies are hitting. Crit has always been terrifying in PoE, and again, what I'm trying to do in this video is explain what the numbers mean, because when you see these numbers like 300% increased hit chance, your brain doesn't process it. You don't understand what that means. This is 4 times as many crits in your map. So monsters are critting 4 times more often than they would have been otherwise. And then the crit damage bonus, I believe, is at 100 base for monsters. So this is adding a 1.3 multiplier on the crit damage bonus. So when you're getting crit 4 times more often, those crits are doing 30% more damage. The next 2 mods that I want to pull up are really bad for certain characters, but again, don't increase the one-shot potential. So chance to poison, basically anytime you get hit, now you're going to have a chance for part of that hit's damage to become damage over time. This is really dangerous if you don't have chaos res. Poison does chaos damage, as well as chance to bleed, which is somewhere in here, but same deal. So basically what happens is when enemies hit you, normally you can regen up after that hit and you're going to be fine. If they apply bleed, if they apply poison, your regen kind of gets offset, and then a playstyle that you were normally okay with playing now becomes unsustainable and you end up dying. Next up, we've got monsters break armor. So again, if all of your Fizz defenses, or even now your Fizz and LE defenses, are based on your armor, this mod is going to mess you up. If you go down to 0, you have none of those defenses. So armor break is horrifying. If you're playing an armor build, probably never run this mod unless you feel really comfortable about how you can dodge. Increased stun buildup. So this might be confusing. And I don't know if GGG did it on purpose, but like this is the mod that makes it so that monsters stun you faster. I know this is really bad for certain builds, but you might mistake it for this mod, which increases monsters' stun threshold. So it makes monsters harder to stun. So if you're reading map mods and you see this one or you see the other one and you mix them up, it could be really bad. Increased freeze buildup is really dangerous on certain situations. There are abyss mods that do laser beams of cold damage. There are shrines that do a bunch of cold damage. I don't know if the shrines get this buff. But there are situations where freeze buildup is actually really dangerous if you don't have the charm to get yourself out of freeze. Shock chance as well. Shock is really terrifying. It's just a more damage multiplier on your character, so again, rough. Monsters fire 3 additional projectiles, so again, it doesn't necessarily increase the one-shot potential, and I'm unsure of what can shotgun and what can't in this game, but 3 projectiles has always been one of the worst modifiers in PoE 1. It is pretty dangerous in PoE 2, but I haven't felt like it's kept the same danger. But yeah, just be careful. And now we get to the 2 worst modifiers on the suffix that I can think of. Number 1 is monster damage penetrates elemental resistances, and we're going to explain this later. You might not realize how this works, but if you have, resistances over the cap, that doesn't matter. This is penetrating the resistances based on whatever your max res is. And in conjunction with the second one that I feel like is, the worst suffix possible, which is maximum player resistances. These 2 mods together can destroy any character, basically. And finally, players have 40% less recovery rate of life and energy shield. This one is pretty brutal in certain cases. If you don't have a lot of recovery in the first place, you're going to notice this. If you have enough recovery, this is not too bad. The only reason why this mod gets bad is what we're about to touch on right now. So I'm going to go over the calculation. We're going to start with a hit of 100 damage, and then we're going to look at what it plays out to in a map with like the worst set of mods possible. And then once we get that number, I feel like you're going to be surprised by how much more damage you could be taking in any given map. All right, so this is a map with 6 of the worst modifiers on it. What we're going to do now is calculate how much damage you would take in a default map, and then how much damage would you take from that same hit in this 6 mod map. So to start out, it's going to be a hit of 100 elemental damage, and we're going to be doing this against a player with 75% maximum elemental res. We might do it for 90 later just to see how much worse it is. But again, currently 70, which means that you are only taking 25 damage from that 100 damage elemental hit. 75% of the damage is getting reduced. So again, keep this in mind. Base map, normal map, you're taking 25 damage. We're now going to swap over to this insane map. So we start off with the 100 hit. We're going to add a 1.6 for the extra elemental damage, 30 from the fire, 30 from the cold. We're now going to apply the crit damage. So crit is a 2x multiplier, I believe, as well as now being a 2.3x multiplier because of the bonus crit damage. So let's apply that real quick. We're now onto the resistances portion. So if you were at 75, we take 15 off, we take 12 off. You're going to go down to 48, I believe. So if your maximum elemental resistances is 48, you're going to be taking 52% of that damage. So let's multiply this by 0.52. So let's apply the final damage multiplier of 1.3. So 248 damage from that hit. That might not seem like a lot, but again, let's think back to initially what you were taking, which was 25 damage. So already in this map, you were taking 10 times as much damage as you would in the other map. Something I just caught is I was calculating the crit in the second calculation, but I wasn't calculating it in the first, which is to say you can 2x the normal damage, and then we can cut all these values in half. But then we'd have to be talking about the relative number of crits you take as opposed to the relative damage of the hits that you take. So already, right, like alarm bells should be going off in your brain. This is way more than you probably realized, right? Like you didn't know, oh, fuck, I was running these map modifiers and I realized threw it in, now I'm taking 10x damage, right? PoE isn't balanced around this fucking 10x value, right? This is only the start, though. So if I do the same calculation with you at 90 maximum all res, you're taking even more damage relative, right? Like the damage you were taking initially is going to be way lower. So even if the damage that's output is lower as well. The relative difference is going to be worse. The things I haven't talked about, which everybody is doing, and I'll pull the map up, pull the atlas up real quick, is that Delirious applies this. So Delirious is another more multiplier on this damage. And then your atlas passive tree is going to really mess you up. So I'm going to pull up that real quick and explain what's going on. So what we've got here is Fubgun's strats. And again, I need to reinforce this into you guys. I'm not trying to hate on any creator. My confusion and everything that I feel when it comes to the PoE2 community is why certain people just don't talk about things. So Fubgun is great. He's a great creator. Last PoE1 league I played, I played the, snaking slam builds. I'm like a slam build player forever. So to see him do a slam build was kind of cool. Followed along, it was nice. But what we're going to be looking at here is the max map effect atlas passive tree that not only him, but a lot of players definitely pushed for when it came to juicing your maps in PoE2. And what I want to take a look at is certain mods on the tree. So unstable energies. Waystones have 20% more effect of prefixes or more effect of suffixes. So this is a 25% more multiplier on the values that we just looked at on the map itself. All of those negative values for your character. On top of the fact that you're taking waystone effect, waystone effect per affix. So this is 12, right? I'll be doing the math on screen. 6, 12, already up to 18. This is a more multiplier. Again, another 6 over here. This is 9. 3% increased effect of maps modifiers on your waystone for each tower affecting them. So this is 9 again, because you can only have 3 now, I think. As well as another 6 here. So we'll do the calculation. In total, I think it comes out to around like 48% increased waystone effect, either 48 or 54. And then if you apply the more multiplier to either the prefixes or suffixes, you're getting around 80%, right? So it's going to be like 50% more prefixes, 80% more suffixes, or, swap those two. So what that means is if you take that same map and then apply the calculation to it, double it, right? Okay, we were looking at you taking 10 times as much damage. Oh wait, now you're taking 20 times as much damage. Apply the delirium effect to that. Let's say you're 30% more delirious map, right? Well, 1.3 multiplier on that. What's 1.3 of, what's 1/3 of 20, right? Like, okay, now it's 26 times more damage, right? It's just way more than you could ever realize if you didn't play PoE1, or if you're not familiar with ARPGs, if you're not familiar with how difficulty scales in this game. It is crucial for you to understand that when you're having discussions about this game, when you're talking about balance, to not undersell how likely all of your issues are stemming from just these fucking map mods, right? Like, the game isn't designed around this type of setup. The only way you survive this type of setup is if, like Fubgun, you are running a off-screen killing like machine, right? You basically, at this level of juice, are attempting to kill everything before it can even touch you, or you're immune to a lot of these affixes. So if we pull the affixes back up, again, you can be immune to extra chaos. You can be immune to crits, essentially. You can make it so you take 100% less damage from the crits. You can literally become immune to poison, bleed. Of the things that you can't become immune to, it's just always going to be more damage. There's nothing you can do. If you increase your character's survivability, you will be taking less overall damage, but the concept of relative damage will never change, right? If you're running a default base map, it's always going to be a set value, given your character's current stats. If you run a much more juiced map, it's always going to be a set value that you're taking, right? And when you look at the difference between those two values, then you kind of see why did I get one shot in this map versus getting one shot in this other map, right? Well, it's because you're taking 5, 10, up to 20%, 20 times more damage, given the current layout that you've decided to run. So let's do this calculation, except you're now at 90 max res. Let's do default map. normal hit of 100, you're going to reduce it down 90%, you're going to go down to a 10. So you're going to take 10 damage in that default map. We're going to go back to looking at the juiced map, 1.6, 2.3. So now we're going to apply the penetration. So if you're at 90 max, minus 15, minus 12, you're going to be going down to 63. And then to calculate the 63, we're going to do times 0.37. That is how much damage you're going to be taking. And then we're going to apply the 1.3 at the very end. So we end up with 177 damage. So I believe that is lower than what we saw in the other calculation, right? So your total damage taken is still lower with 90 maximum all res. But remember in the first map, you were taking 10 damage. So the difference, the relative difference in damage you're taking is actually way more. And that's because the higher your elemental, like maximum elemental resistances gets, the more effective it is. So if you take these map modifiers when your reses are that high, it's much worse for you. This is a 17 to 18% times increase in damage, going from a normal white map to this insane 6 mod map that you probably never run, but I'm just trying to make the concept clear, right? You know, I'm going to try to wrap this up. There's some stuff I realized towards the end where I didn't apply the crit to the normal map. But again, just conceptually, all I'm trying to get across is that you just don't get it, right? Like, I don't think you understand when you take that map, you click on the, you give it 6 mods and then you put it in your waystone, and you run the map. I don't think you realize how much more damage you're taking, right? There's potential for so much more damage incoming. It's kind of hidden. There's a ton of layers, right? When we talk about layers, now we're talking about map mod offensive layers, just fucking your character up. So that's all I'm trying to say with this video, right? Like, the map modifiers are insane. If you're worried about getting one shot, look for these modifiers and don't run the maps with them. There's a few other modifiers on maps right now that make this way less punishing. Mods that don't even increase your damage taken, but instead increase the monster health, monster resistances, stuff like that. You can roll really good mods. And at the start of 0.3, the map sustain was really good, so I had no problem just kind of running through and taking entire pages of the map tab and just saying not going to run these maps, I'll run these other ones. So anyways, if you're looking at playing hardcore, this is something really important. You do not want to be running these maps. If you're playing softcore and you're just getting frustrated because when you run a 6 mod map, if you die, you lose it all, maybe don't run these mods on those maps. Yeah, anyways, I'm going to keep doing videos like this. Subscribe, we're trying to grow the channel, and I will catch you guys in the next one.